Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad to be here. I hope you're glad to be here today, too. There's a program on television that's called the X Factor, and that program is about finding people who have that certain something that will keep them in the competition to find out if they can go all the way and win. So today we're talking about the U factor, the unity factor. And that factor is you, because you're that certain something that keeps unity going. So we're going to consider you. I have three little segments. One is you are distinctively you. Another is you are healing energy. And finally, you are a perfect expression of God's love. That's what we'll talk about today. So let's talk about you. I know that there's at least a couple of people here that's their favorite topic. So I've learned a little bit. What is it that makes you you? Is it your smile? Do you think maybe it's your sense of humor? Because I see that here. Is it your ability to heal? And what words do you think people would say if they were to describe you? What is that? What word? What word would come up? Well, I know that when I look out there, I see people where the word loving comes to mind, and encourager, but everyone could point at that person. Inspiring, accepting, good listener, a lot of people, a lot of different words. Something we need to realize is that every day of our life molds us into who we are. Everything we go through makes you who you are. From a young age, we start seeing who we are. We saw a dancer this morning, those of us who are close. A very expressive dancer, someone who could probably do that well. I hope that she will be encouraged. In my family, my grandmother and her family was very intuitive. So when she found out that I was intuitive, she and I had some very interesting conversations. I found out that her brother could see things, could see people, and that's how she eased me into the fact that being able to do that is not a problem. I would like to tell you a quick story about my daughters. The first story I want to tell you is about Alyssa, and my surprise. When she was about 3 years old, we were getting ready to go to sleep, and her bedroom was down the hall on the end, and she came in just padding along, and she stopped right at the edge of the bed, and as Kim recalls, she said that she was laying down and her face was just enough, she's tall enough just to look at her in the face, and she said, "Mommy, is it okay if I talk to that man in my bedroom?" Of course. Kim sat up, she bolted up and said, "Ron, go find out who's in the bedroom." So I went down the hall, there's nobody in the room, nobody in the house was all locked up, and we came back and she was quizzing Alyssa about the whole thing when I got back, and she's like, "I don't know," but she says she's been talking to this man and decided I probably ought to go find out if it's okay, because I don't know this person. Well, Kim's a real history buff, and our house that we lived in at the time was over 100 years old. So she was at the Historic Society looking up papers and everything she could find, and made photocopies of them and brought them home. And she had them all laying out on the table, and Alyssa walked over and said, "Mommy, that's the man that was in my room." The man that was responsible for building that town and our house. It was very interesting, and Kim looked at me and said, My grandmother said, "I think it's a genetic thing." And I said, now, my grandmother's no longer with us, and I said, "Yep, Grandma, I think you're right." On the other hand, I have another daughter whose name is Chelsea, who sometimes is very literal and makes us laugh a lot, even when she's not trying to. I remember when she was maybe 2 years old, Kim picked her up quickly and kind of was a little off balance. And she said, "Whoa, I lost my balance." And Chelsea just just did everything she could to get out of her arms. And Kim set her down, and she started looking around on the floor. And finally I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Looking for Mommy's balance." So it was pretty literal. You've got to love kids. One time when I was teaching in Westmoreland, and we all did recess duty, and we weren't allowed to play with the kids during recess duty because we were watching them. If we wanted to come out extra when we were on duty, we could play with kids. And these two little kindergarten girls came up and said, "Will you please push us on the swings?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm on duty." And instantly they started looking around my feet. And I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're looking for the duty. We don't want to step in it." So, yeah, love kids. But everything you go through brings you into the person that you are. It's the you factor. Everything is in your life for a reason. You're learning lessons all the time. I want you to think about what people see when they see you. What do they feel when you walk into the room? And is it what you hope you're projecting, or do you think about it? Remember that you've been created by a loving spirit that has a plan for your life. So we go through life learning lesson after lesson. So are you hiding the real you? Is it in there somewhere? Are you putting up the facade that you want everybody to see, or is it really you that we see? Because we want to see the you that Spirit so diligently worked to create. Because that's where we need to be. I have a scripture to read for you. It's from Psalms. It's Psalm 139, verse 16. This is from the English Standard Version. It says, "Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." So the idea is that you are part of a bigger plan. As we said earlier, no one is here by coincidence. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be part of this. And you are distinctively you. Your energy. You are healing energy. Everyone and everything has energy. When you think about it, it's science, because you know that everything's made up of molecules, and science tells us that they're always moving, and anything that's moving is creating energy. Think about a rubber band. When it's cold and you start stretching it, it gets warm really quickly because it's moving the molecules a little more, and it's making energy. You are a bunch of molecules, a lot of them, and they're working, and they're ever producing energy. So that energy is there. What you choose to do with it is totally up to you. What you choose to do with your energy is totally up to you. Now you can probably remember or bring someone to mind that when you see them walk into the room you go, "Ugh," because you know what kind of energy they produce. Some people that you really don't want to be around very long, or only when you have to, or for as little as you have to. Because you know there are some people who are not satisfied until they're able to be dissatisfied. They're just like that. That's how they choose to use their energy. That's not the best way to use your energy. Your energy can spend most of the time just lying around, and being dormant, and you can walk through life and not cause anything or not make anything happen and think, well, as long as I'm not doing anything, I'm not harming anyone. But you're also not living much. So what we need to do is put your energy to use. And remember that molecules are constantly moving, so you have an unending supply of energy that you can share. You may feel tired sometimes, but you still have energy, and it can be positive. And remember that positive thoughts influence your energy. So thinking positively will cause your energy to become more positive. And as you interact with people, they will start saying, "Oh, I'm glad you're here." Or they'll smile when you walk in because they know that you exude that positive energy. I know it's hard for some people, I don't know why, to believe that they have any kind of healing energy. Because the Bible says that you have. If you've read the Bible, It's in many places. So let's take the you factor to a new level for some of you. And I'm going to read a section from the book of John that records the words of Jesus when he taught people about God. And it says, this is from the New International Version, it's John 14:10-13. Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing the work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. As in unity we know that God is within you, that Christ is within you, just exactly what he's teaching right here. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in this will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. So remember that. You do have God living in you. You are a reflection of God. You have the power. It's been placed in you. Now we just need to use it. For us, it's spirit that will be glorified through the child, which is you. You are the child of God. Let's talk really quickly about hands, because hands are important. Think about when you give somebody something, your hand goes forward. When you receive something from someone, your hand goes forward. When you decide that you're going to give someone a hug, your hands go forward. If you meditate, and you meditate with your hands open and up, you're receiving. Hands are important, very important. You know, many years ago, I'm going to make myself really old here, before we had cell phones, when we had to pay for every minute that you talked to someone long distance, I don't know, some people probably remember that, the Bell Company, Southwestern Bell, they had a commercial on television. And the song was, reach out and touch someone. Reach out, call up and just say hi. So the idea was that you were reaching out. And they knew how important that was and how positive that message was. So they were telling you, you need to reach out. Reach out. So when you're reaching out, you're sharing that energy. Let's make sure it's positive energy by thinking positive thoughts. We do know that some hands are designed a little differently because they're designed to take, because they may take away pain, they can take away suffering, whether it's physical or emotional. There are gifts like that that are alive and well, and people are using them. But all hands are made to give. They're made to give love and acceptance and comfort. Every set of hands in this room can do that. So when you approach someone with the intent to hug them, it's your hands that reach them first. And a simple hug can cause positive energy to flow. A simple hug. Positive energy exchanged. Remember that you've been perfectly created to give and accept positive energy. So finally, I want to talk about the fact that you are a perfect expression of God's love. You were created to be you. You're that perfect expression. A quote on the desk of someone who teaches at my school says, be you. You're the one that does it best. I like that idea. So no one else is going to be you. Can you imagine if I was standing here in complete Lady Gaga attire, and I was standing here and I was saying, can't read my poker face, would you believe me? No, because Lady Gaga is supposed to be that way, not me. I'm supposed to be me, you should be you. Well, in the book that I was led to write, it's called Thin Doors, and Open Dialogue with the Other Side. It was a time for me to write and to express me and the relationship that I had with my dad. And it centers around the last 3 weeks of his life. He was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it had progressed, and he only had days to live. So I took time from my work to go be with him. And my administrator said, you've got lots of sick leave, go do that. So the book centers around that. about all the stuff that in my life I hid for decades. I hid because I was always made to feel like that was not good. I wasn't being me, the me that God created me to be. In fact, for the first few years of my marriage, I wasn't honest about it either. I would slip and say, well, this is going to happen, or something was coming, and Kim would say, how do you know that? And I would say, well, duh, Kim, it's common sense. Yeah, and she'd kind of look at me sideways, and then after a while, something came up, and then she said, all right, there's no way that was common sense. You remember the day? And I said, well, I guess got to spill the beans. So I talked to her for a long time about it, and of course, she couldn't argue with the fact that I had done that for years and said things, so she knew, well, this must be true. So it's just you being you and me being me. I know that I've had the opportunity now to travel across the country and speak about those things and find out that there are so many other people who are in the same place I was, who can feel things and hear things and know things, and were totally afraid to tell anyone. So they were able to know that it's okay. It's normal. We're supposed to be able to do that. It's called intuition, and we have it, and we should use it. So what I did was, finally, I realized that I only had to be what I was made to be. You know, I knew that any more or less was going to be a step out of the plan, and I just had to open up and step forward. And it's been a learning experience. I want to read something from Jeremiah 29:11. This is also from the New International Version. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." It's the you factor, being you, because life is all about you, and it should be. Looking back, we talked about how you're distinctively you are healing energy, and you are a perfect expression of God's love. No one else could be you. No one else is supposed to be you. So please be you, and don't be afraid to be you. You need to be. So you being a perfect expression of God's love are meant to be who you are. Remember that your path is there. You shouldn't be walking over here because you're afraid to be you. Step back on your path, walk the way you should, and remember that the unity factor, the you factor, is the you factor. So pump up your you. All right? Let it shine. Be you. So it is.